Two identical electrical engineers. They retire in the exact same day, with the exact same assets. But fast forward 25 years, and their families inherited legacies separated by nearly $2 million. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're analyzing a fascinating financial case study called The Silent Partner to understand exactly how this happened.
So, what happened here? How does a 25-year timeline create such a massive financial divergence from identical starting points? If you're an engineer, an executive, or a high-net-worth professional, you really need to hear this. It exposes a systemic flaw in how we tend to think about wealth once the accumulation phase is over.
Let's dive right into the data. Look at this stark anomaly. Bill left his family $5.1 million. Tom, $3.3 million. That is nearly a $2 million gap when their estates were settled 25 years into retirement. Two guys, parallel lives, radically different outcomes.
Now, as analytical thinkers, we immediately look for the hidden variables, right? Did Bill stumble onto some secret tech stock, or maybe start a wildly successful side business? Nope. Did Tom just make reckless financial decisions? He definitely did not. We are looking at absolute baseline parity here. Both men were career engineers, lived the exact same lifestyle, and both arrived at age 60 with an identical starting portfolio of $3.8 million.
Let's break down the mathematical symmetry of those initial assets. They had built what most people would consider a highly successful, picture-perfect retirement. $2.8 million sitting in traditional, tax-deferred accounts, $700,000 in brokerage accounts, and $300,000 in Roth accounts. From the outside looking in, they had won the game. So what exactly caused that $2 million split?
Well, the catalyst for this whole divergence actually happened a few years before they even retired. Bill was at a financial workshop, and he heard a premise that completely challenged his baseline assumptions. The speaker said, many people spend decades building wealth and never stop to ask how much of it actually belongs to them. Now, initially, Bill kind of scoffed at this. He earned it, he saved it, he invested it. Who else could possibly own it?
That's when the presenter introduced the concept of the silent partner. You see, the tax-free growth inside those traditional 401ks and IRAs, that massive $2.8 million slice both men had, comes with a profound catch. Every single dollar of that growth has literally never been taxed. The government hasn't forgotten its cut. The liability has simply been postponed. The government is, essentially, your silent partner.
And that sparked a major realization for Bill. When you look at a traditional retirement statement, you are actually looking at two numbers, not one. There's the printed balance, the $2.8 million, which looks fantastic on paper, but then there's the reality, whatever net capital is left over after future taxes. Those two numbers are absolutely not the same, and ignoring that difference, that is a systemic planning error.
The entire $2 million divergence stems entirely from how these two men reacted to that specific reality. Tom went with the static, default approach. Just pay the taxes later, keep the money invested now, and coast through retirement. But Bill took a dynamic approach. He started asking a highly strategic question. What happens if I execute strategic conversions and gradually pay taxes on my terms instead of just waiting for the government to dictate the terms later?
Let's map out exactly how Bill executed this. He treated the years between his retirement at 60 and his Medicare eligibility as a massive optimization window. Without his engineering salary, his tax bracket plummeted. So, step by step, year by year, he voluntarily converted a portion of his traditional accounts over to Roth accounts. He was intentionally realizing taxes early to capitalize on those temporarily lower rates.
By paying those taxes strategically, Bill was doing some rigorous account structure optimization. He was essentially buying flexibility as an asset. While Tom was perfectly happy just leaving his money alone, Bill treated his portfolio like an engineering problem. He optimized exactly where his wealth lived to guarantee he'd have unburdened, tax-free capital for the future. Because eventually, that silent partner comes to collect. Enter age 73 and required minimum distributions, or RMDs. This government mandate is the ultimate systemic stress test for any retiree with traditional accounts. Once you hit 73, the IRS forces you to start withdrawing capital from those tax-deferred accounts, completely regardless of whether you actually need or want the income.
For Tom, the static planner, this triggered severe collateral damage. Because his $2.8 million traditional account had just grown untouched for years, his forced withdrawals were massive, and that created a nasty, compounding tax drag. The higher forced income triggered higher Medicare premiums, and it even pushed his Social Security benefits into taxable territory. His wealth was leaking out, but entirely on the government schedule.
When you compare the two men at age 73,
the sheer power of account structure becomes blindingly obvious. While Tom was getting hit with compounding interconnected tax burdens from forced distributions, Bill was completely insulated. Because he'd spent his early retirement years systematically executing those Roth conversions, his traditional account balances were drastically minimized. His RMDs were tiny, effectively neutralizing the tax and premium spikes that were eroding Tom's wealth.
And this brings us to such a profound realization. Small structural decisions yield incredibly large outcomes. Look, in any single year, you couldn't even see the divergence. Both men traveled, both men enjoyed their retirements. But stretched over a 25-year timeline, these systemic, structural choices functioned exactly like compound interest. The capital disparity just accumulated quietly, decision after decision. For engineers, executives, and high-net-worth professionals, this establishes a vital new framework. Retirement is not a finish line where you just stop and coast. It is an ongoing optimization problem. Account structure matters just as much as accumulation. Two investors can have the exact same net worth and identical returns, yet arrive at vastly different legacies based entirely on structural efficiency.
Tom experienced massive wealth leakage simply because he stopped planning the day he stopped working. Bill understood that for successful families, the most important planning actually begins after the paychecks stop. So ask yourself the exact same question Bill did. Am I actually using what I have wisely? Take a hard, analytical look at your account structures, identify your silent partners, and optimize your system. Thank you for joining me for this explainer.